So, I wanted to talk about overconsumption, just because it's a topic I feel very passionately about, in the way that it really irritates me, and by no means by claiming to be an expert on this subject. It's just my experiences and my opinions, so obviously take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this subject or to know exactly what I'm talking about. These are just my experiences. And what I've found has helped me not overconsume as much. I'm still by no means perfect. I still have moments where I, probably buy something that I didn't need and, whatever. Nobody's perfect. But yeah. Couple disclaimers before we get started. Like I said, I'm not an expert, so take all of this with a grain of salt. Also, I have had a sore throat recently. It is getting better, but if my voice just sounds really annoying, more annoying than usual, then that's why. And, if my voice goes or cracks or whatever at any point, that is why. And also, as well, this isn't to shame people who enjoy having things. This isn't to shame maximalists or trinket girlies. I love a good trinket. I myself am a very materialistic person. I love having things. Who doesn't? I think a lot of the majority of us love having things, and that's a good thing. We're human, we're here in this physical world. We should be enjoying things and having things, but it's just important to appreciate what we do have and not go overboard with that, which is what I'm going to talk about right now. I think just starting off by saying that it is a privilege to have things and enjoy things. And I think a lot of us, especially myself at times, can forget that. I can have moments where I'm just a total brat and I just forget how lucky I am to even be here and exist, but also just to have what I have in my life. I'm getting better at practicing gratitude and feeling grateful and thankful for what I have, which I'm very thankful in itself that I've gotten to this place where I can practice gratitude and stuff. But yeah, there were times where I was I want more stuff, and just being a little brat about it. But yeah, I'm not perfect, and yeah, I just want to point that out. So obviously we buy things, we get things because we feel like it will add something positive to our lives. A basic example of this is water and food. We obviously need these things to survive. Then a duvet or a mattress to, obviously we need sleep, so to make our sleep more comfortable. We might get cooking utensils, like a pan or something to cook with to make our food. We might get laundry detergent to make our clothes clean and smell nice. Then moving forward, we might get decorations and clothes. Obviously, we need clothes to keep warm and cover ourselves. We might get decorations to make our house feel more like a home, feel more comfortable. Obviously, the basic would be shelter, but then decorations is an added bonus, I guess. It is nice to have things. It is nice to decorate your house to make it feel more like you, or decorate your space, whatever that space may be. But sometimes we do have to take a step back and think, is this too much? And again, I'm not shaming. If having a lot of things is your thing and you love that, then that's amazing. But I think a big part of it for me was realizing that actually I don't need a lot of things, and owning a lot of things does not give me joy and actually makes me feel very anxious. So why do I keep doing this to myself? It goes without saying that overconsumption is a problem that harms our earth, our bank accounts, perhaps even our mental health, and others around us as well. I think when I was younger, I had the privilege of not really thinking about and not really knowing about where my clothes and everything came from. Obviously you have to think, if these things are so cheap, then how much of the work is being paid, what conditions are the workers in. And when I was younger, I kind of, I had the privilege to not really think about those things and kind of just always got new clothes, always got new things. I never went without, which again is a huge privilege, and a blessing that I'm very grateful for. It kind of became more of a problem when I was a teenager. I guess when you're a teenager, you get a lot of insecurities, and your mental health can obviously take a huge hit from those if you don't get the right support. I'm not going to get in too deep about mental health just because this is a safe space and I don't want to trigger anyone. But I did struggle a lot with anxiety when I was a teenager, and I didn't really know what it was. I feel like now, this newer generation, mental health is talked about a lot more. Obviously, we still have some ways to go. And I'm not saying that it was completely awful when I was a teenager. I mean, I'm very young, I'm only 22. So it's not like there was like a huge difference in those years. But I think it was just starting to be talked about. So when I heard the word anxiety, I didn't really know what it was. I just kind of went the first bit of my life thinking that I was just really shy and really awkward, and that, you know, the anxiety that I was feeling was just like a thing that I just was being over dramatic about, and I kind of had to get on with it. I think as well, the insecurities that I had that were mainly about my appearance and my body image. Again, I'm not going to get too much into it because I don't want to trigger anyone, but they obviously had like a huge impact on the amount of anxiety that I was feeling as well. And I think that led me to consume more than I needed to. And again, when I was a teenager, fast fashion, like that term, wasn't really used as much as it is now. And again, I had the privilege of not really knowing and not really caring or thinking about where my clothes and other things came from. And I think as well, social media was becoming a lot more prevalent, if that's the right word, in, you know, society and pop culture as well. I guess I was like the last generation to kind of grow up without social media being such a huge thing. But I think even as a teenager, it was still that huge pressure to have that aesthetic lifestyle or that particular identity that meant that you had to present yourself in a certain way. Even now, like, that's such a huge pressure on people in general, and it's growing, like, with each, you know, YouTuber and influencer, TikToker, whatever you want to say. There's just this huge pressure of like adhering to a certain lifestyle, adhering to a certain aesthetic. And even though I guess aesthetics now aren't such a big thing, I guess, there's still this like trend of like, you know, a list of, you know, these 10 things that you need from Amazon to, you know, have this certain aesthetic, or 10 things that you need from Shein, or, you know, 10 things you need from wherever to get this certain lifestyle, which I think if you are unhappy with yourself and your life, you kind of are more inclined to jump onto that without even thinking, because you feel like these things are gonna, you know, magically enhance your life and solve every problem that you have. Which I feel like if you do fall into that bracket of maybe over consuming, that you maybe do feel a bit unhappy with your life or your identity, and you are searching for that quick fix. Again, I've been there. I'm not shaming. It is like a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but like I say that with like all the love and light and like so gently to you, like I'm holding your hand. If you have taken that a bit hard, I think it is a really hard thing to realize. When I realized it about myself, I completely was like, oh, like it took me a second to recover from that. I think when I say it out loud, it does seem such an obvious thing to me, and it may seem like such an obvious thing to you when you connect the dots, but I think sometimes when you're so in deep with burying things, you don't really realise just what you're doing. But I think people who do tend to overconsume, or, you know, use shopping as a crutch, or buying new things as like a way of happiness, they do tend to be a bit unhappy, or they do tend to be hiding from things. I know I was, and I'll get into that. I think the main things that I overconsumed when I was younger were clothes and skincare. But yeah, the main things I overconsumed, or tried to, because I didn't really have a lot of money to do that much damage, which annoyed me at the time, but now looking back I'm like, thank God, because I would have like bought so much stuff that I didn't need to. So I'm glad that I didn't have that much money to do that much damage. Yeah, it's funny looking back with hindsight anyway. I guess with skincare, it's quite similar to makeup in the fact that we're always marketed and shown this thing that is going to solve all of our insecurities and all of our problems. And very rarely does that happen. Like I said, I was very insecure about my appearance as a teenager. I had acne just like everyone else. And that really made me take a hit in my confidence. In terms of clothes as well, I did not have a very healthy body image or relationship with food. Sorry if that triggers anyone, but I often bought a lot of clothes and was constantly seeking like this perfect aesthetic wardrobe because I thought that that was going to make me feel confident and make me feel happy, which, don't get me wrong, dressing how you want to dress can really make you feel like yourself, can really make you feel confident, and can bring happiness. Don't get me wrong, like, the clothes I wear now make me feel so good and so confident and so happy when I wear them, but it took me doing the work first to get to that place, because I feel like if you do have some, and don't get me wrong, we all have insecurities. Nothing's going to be perfect and 100% all the time. Like, we're going to have good days, we're going to have bad days. But I think we just need to get ourselves to a place where we have that self-love so that even on those bad days, we can show up for ourselves, whatever that looks like. We don't have to be 100% all the time. But if we're in a place like I was, where I was just like completely hating everything on me that I wore, it didn't matter what it was. If it was on my body, I didn't like it because I just had that really rough relationship with myself and with my appearance that I needed to sort out and acknowledge. I feel like acknowledging it is the first step. It's probably the hardest step because obviously we're using these distractions, these dopamine hits, as a way to run from it. You have to acknowledge what you're running from in order to fix it. Otherwise, it's never going to be fixed. And we're just going to keep finding these other things to lean on and distract ourselves from it. Similarly, with the clothes, with the skincare, even though I had moments of my skin getting better, I still would feel insecure. And I would look at beautiful people that I thought were beautiful, that I thought were pretty or whatever, and I would imagine myself looking like them. And I had this moment where I like realized that even if I looked like these beautiful people that I thought were wonderful and great and quote adhered to all the beauty standards, I would still feel insecure. Like, I had that eureka moment where I was like, oh my god, like, no matter how I look, I would still feel insecure. And it hit me that, like, oh yeah, this is inside me. Like, this is a thing that I just have to work through and get through. And honestly, it was just building that self-love with myself. Because like I said, we're all going to get bad days. Life isn't perfect all the time. That's impossible. Healing is non-linear as well. It's a bitch to realize and it's a bitch to go through. You know, you might have an amazing day where everything's perfect and you feel like you're healed and you're completely, quote, cured or whatever. And then the next day you might wake up and it might just be the most awful mental health day ever. And you might sit there and be like, what went wrong? What did I do wrong? Babe, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just that sometimes that happens. But we need to cultivate that strong bond and that strong connection with ourselves. And we need to be brave and we need to feel these things. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going into this toxic cycle of leaning on things that don't really work, like overconsuming. I also just felt really trapped in this cycle of buying and then getting rid of things, you know, selling them or giving them to charity shops, or, you know, going through this product that doesn't actually work and then feeling really bad. It was very overwhelming and very, like, I felt very trapped, like it was never going to end. And it's okay to change as a person. It's okay to change what you like. I change a lot, but it's important to realize when you're buying and getting rid of stuff just because you're changing, and when you're buying and getting rid of stuff because you just don't want to face whatever, quote, negative emotion you are feeling in this moment. I think also, in kind of a twisted way, consuming made me feel like I had a purpose. These hits of dopamine that I got getting that parcel was great, but then it only lasted for a few moments. And I realized that I was getting really, really impatient with waiting for parcels, even though, like, nowadays you literally only have to wait like a few days a week. Like, that's nothing. I know it sounds like really bad, and like we're used to just getting things like the next day or whatever, but I felt like the process of waiting was just too much and I couldn't handle it and I needed it now. But then actually that process of waiting was better than actually receiving the parcel. Once I got that thing, once I got that product, I got a hit of dopamine. I got this hit of like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's a new thing and I'm so happy and I love this so much. And then within a day I was like, okay, what next? What can I get next? It was a feeling that really didn't last long at all. And it sucked, but that waiting period of like waiting for something gave me purpose, which sounds so weird, but it's the only way I can describe it. And similarly, when I would go out and shop, like physically in a shopping centre, whatever, like the process of like spending money and the process of like, you know, seeing a new thing, getting it, and like holding the bags and walking around just holding the bags felt more exciting to me than like coming home and actually using my new things. Which again, I don't know what that, you know, says. I guess I just liked having like the feeling of new things and like feeling like I had a purpose and stuff, which again is like another thing of like, you need to cultivate that connection and that bond with yourself and that relationship with yourself to actually truly find out what is your purpose, what do you want to be doing. And it doesn't have to be anything mind-blowing like, oh, I'm going to help loads of people and I'm going to travel the world and all that. Like, it doesn't have to be, you know, that quote amazing, because anything's amazing, you know what I mean? Just do it for you. And if you truly do enjoy fashion and you truly do enjoy clothes or buying things or like organizing things or getting new things, then try and work that into a career. Like, you know, you could be a personal shopper, you could be a stylist, you could be an interior designer, whatever. Just try and really discover and ask yourself, you know, what do you really want? What do you enjoy doing? What's your true purpose? Rather than just, you know, waiting for a parcel that is maybe going to give you joy for about half an hour, maybe. I was trapped in this cycle of never feeling satisfied. And yeah, just that sinking feeling of, is that it? Like, I've waited days and I expected something more, and yet here we are, and I'm just here. Like, is that it? Is that really what I was thinking that was going to change my life and make everything better all of a sudden? So here is the part of the pod, I guess, where I try to actually speak coherently and give you tips and tricks on how to actually sort it, I guess. Again, I am not a professional by any means. If you feel like you need to go to a professional, a therapist, whatever, then do whatever suits you. Yeah, just go easy on yourself and love yourself. Take these with a grain of salt. These are just my experiences. These are just what helped me, but I am not a professional. I think the main point I've been trying to just make about my own experiences is that I was very insecure and I was looking for a quick fix. Clothes and things can make you feel good, but to a certain extent. Self-love definitely starts from within, and a new dress or a new skirt or a new face mask is not going to fix years or months or weeks or whatever of negative self-thoughts and those negative inbuilt beliefs about yourselves. You need to start building a healthy relationship with yourself. That's what I found. Shopping is a coping mechanism, can be. It was mine. It can become an addiction, and that's okay. We shouldn't I know maybe you might be listening to this and feeling guilty or shame. And those feelings are okay, but we shouldn't let them overwhelm us. I'm not telling you these things. I'm not saying these things to make you feel guilty or to make you feel ashamed. I'm just saying this because it's what helped with me, and I want to help someone else. That's all I want to do. I want to make you realize that you are lovable and you're worthy of love, and you don't have to keep doing this. Coping mechanisms are great. They've helped me, they've helped you, they help everyone. That's why they're called coping mechanisms, because they help us cope. They can sometimes be really unhealthy though, and not good for us. But that's okay. They've gotten you this far, they've gotten me this far, but you know, you've clicked on this video maybe because you're ready, because it's time to let that go. It's served you, and we thank it. We thank it for being here, for its service, because it's gotten you through, it's gotten you here to this moment in time, which is great. We want you here, we need you here. I'm happy and grateful that you are still here with us. That's amazing. You should give yourself a pat on the back, because life is not hard. Life is hard. I went to say life is not easy and life is hard, and then it came out completely wrong. Oh my god. Life is difficult, life is hard, life is not easy. That's what I meant to say. Feel like I completely ruined the vibe of that emotional moment. I apologise. But we thank it for being here. We thank it for helping us through. We can begin to let it go now, because it's time. And I'm glad that you're here, and you know, you can do this. I think one of the hardest things sometimes, but one of the most amazing and rewarding things, is being with yourself. I'm an introvert, and I love being independent, and I love being with myself, but it wasn't always that way. I think I'm a very sensitive soul, and emotions hit me really hard sometimes. But being with yourself and feeling those things, and asking yourself what you are trying to achieve with this coping mechanism. What are you trying to feel? What's missing that you think you need this thing? What are you actually wanting? What is this thing replacing for you? Or what do you think it's going to replace for you? This can be really, really hard sometimes. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you're strong, and you're going to get there, and you're going to do it, and I believe in you. Negative emotions are going to come up, and that's okay, as long as you try and deal with it in a healthy way, and you are easy with yourself, and you don't beat yourself up about it. This process of healing and, you know, getting to a place where you feel good, like I said, it's going to take a long time. And it's going to take your whole life, which I know at first can sound really overwhelming, and you're probably like, Molly, why did you just tell me that? I'm going to have a panic attack now. But what I mean by that is that healing is non-linear, and we don't want to fall into a healing trap where we always just believe that we're not ready because I haven't healed this. I'm not ready for this because I haven't healed this. I'm not ready for this because I still have this insecurity. Unfortunately, we're always going to have bad days. We're always going to have insecurities. That's okay. We're also always going to have good days. We're going to always also have okay days, meh days. And that's okay. That's a part of life. It's how we deal with those days in the moment. Some of the things that have helped me is talking. I'm still very much perceived as a quiet person, which is fine. But I think a lot of people used to, and some people still do, think that I choose to be quiet and that I choose to not talk as much, when in reality I kind of sometimes hold myself back. I think experiences in the past have taught me that it's not always safe to talk, that it's not always safe to be open, that people don't care what I have to say, that people are going to laugh at me if I say anything, that people are going to think I'm too much. I did hold myself back a lot from speaking, and sometimes I still do, but I'm getting better at it. It takes a lot of practice, and it's not always perfect. I have good days with it, I have bad days with it. I think what really helped me is having a therapist. That was kind of like the first thing that sent a message to my brain that was like, actually, it's okay to talk. Someone will listen to you, even if she's getting paid. She's here, she's holding space for you, she's going to listen to you. And I say she's getting paid as a joke, because obviously therapists do what they do because they want to, and they like helping people, and my therapist is so amazing. I know not everyone has access to these things, but I do believe there are some places where you can get free therapy, or you can get free counselling, or, you know, whatever, I guess. So just look into that, sorry. But yeah, or talking to a friend or someone that's trusted, or, you know, whatever. I think hearing your thoughts out loud can really make sense, or just talking and getting it out. You know, you can record yourself talking, voice notes, or you can, you know, make a little podcast, or like I'm doing, or you can just keep them in privacy and no one has to listen to them, or you can listen to them back to really just hold space for yourself and make sense of what you're thinking. I think a lot of the times when I hear myself back, it can make a lot more sense. On that same note, writing and journaling really has helped me. I just have my journal, my notebook, and I just write whatever I feel like. I just do a brain dump. And I do it most nights. I used to do it every night. When I'm really going through it, I do it every night, and it really just helps me dump all of my thoughts, all of my anxieties, all of my fears out before I go to bed, and then I feel kind of clearer. Not always, sometimes I go to bed and I still feel shit, that's okay. But it just helps, and it's just finding those things that help you. You're not the same as everyone else. We're all going to find different things work for us. Walking as well helps for me. When I was in the depths of my deep anxiety, I walked for hours with my headphones in. I think the thing that helped me with my anxiety as well is just thinking about it in the way that, like, it's just energy that my body just wants to get out. And you don't have to walk, you just move your body. There are a lot of ways that we can move our body. We can work out, we can dance, we can play football, we can do gymnastics, we can do Pilates. Just finding a way to move your body in a way that you feel fulfilling or enjoyable will really help. I think a lot of the time as well, we just have like this pent up energy that we need to get out, and moving your body and just letting it all go can really make a difference. Another tip is just letting go of people or unhealthy self-talk. This can be hard. People that you love can sometimes be most damaging to you and can add into these negative behaviours that you put onto yourself, but it's totally worth it, I swear. And you all know, like deep down, we all have this knowing of when it's time to let go, when it's time to let a certain person go, a certain situation go, and we just have to trust, and sometimes we just have to take that leap of faith. It's much easier said than done. I've been there. I do feel much lighter when I let these people go, and don't get me wrong, I'm still sometimes grieving. I find myself grieving these friendships that I've let go years ago, and that's okay. When those things come up, you let them come up, you deal with them, you acknowledge them, you let them go. Unhealthy self-talk, this isn't going to happen overnight. I've realised I've been banging on for a while now, so I'm going to try and wrap this up. But one of the things that I do with unhealthy self-talk or negative self-talk is that I've started doing a thing where when I think a bad thought about myself, I will either like in my head talk to myself and be like, hey, no, like, what are we doing? No, and I will counteract that thought. So say if I say like I do something that's wrong or whatever, and I just automatically think like, oh, I'm so stupid, oh, I'm so dumb, I will then be like, hey, like, no, I did something that maybe was a bit silly because I wasn't thinking in the moment. Doesn't mean I'm stupid, doesn't mean I'm dumb. Similarly, my mind started doing this thing where if I think a negative thing about myself, I will think of a meme to make me laugh. Mostly it's that clip from American Idol, I believe it's called, where that contestant says like, wig, and then Katy Perry is like, oh my god, did you just say wig? Oh my god. And then the guys are like, wait, wig? What's wig? And then she's like, no, stop, it's not your language. Wig, yeah, I feel that. It's normally that. It can be something else, but normally my body, like, not my body, sorry, my mind, when I think a negative thing about myself, my mind will automatically think, wig, okay. One, it will make me laugh. It will turn the negative moment into a funny moment. And then number two, it will like shock me into like present and being present, right? Because a lot of the time we kind of think these negative things about ourselves automatically. We're kind of on autopilot. If you have been talking to yourself negatively and thinking about yourself in a negative way for years, for months, however long, you're gonna start to just do it automatically and as a habit, and you're not necessarily gonna realize when that occurs. So trying to be present and grounded and realize when that happens and kind of make yourself laugh can be really nice and really healing, because a lot of the time as well, when we're healing or trying to heal and we have that negative self-talk, we can sometimes beat ourselves up about that, which can just lead to more negative self-talk, which is what we don't want, right? So turning that moment into a funny, light-hearted moment when you're thinking about something funny or when you're thinking about a meme can really help just like take you out of that moment, put you back into grounded and presentness, and just make you smile, make you laugh, and then kind of make you feel like, oh, okay, like we've had that moment, that's okay, like we've had a good laugh now, let's now counteract that thought. So again, if you kind of thought that you just automatically thought like, oh, I'm so ugly, and then you thought of like a meme or something that makes you laugh, then you'll have a good laugh, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, right, I thought I'm ugly, that's okay, but like that's not okay now, like I'm beautiful. Even if you don't believe it at that time, that's fine, just think it. And if you constantly think it, you're gonna start building up these new beliefs. Affirmations have also helped me a lot. I listen to affirmations every night, and in the morning I listen to them while I do like stretches. And they're good to just keep in your head, and so eventually that new habit and that new belief system about yourself will be built up. So yeah, think of a meme, make yourself laugh, counteract that negative thought even if you don't believe it at the time. Another thing that's really helped me not overconsume is interacting and consuming more longer form media. I feel like nowadays with YouTube and especially TikTok, we are used to shorter form, we are used to, getting the payoff instantly, we are used to hits of dopamine, not only in like consumerism, but also just like what we're watching online. So I think reading a book or listening to a podcast or getting into a TV show really helps you enjoy the moment and be in the moment and take a step back from social media and just enjoy something without that instant payoff. Be consumed within that world that you love, that genre that you've rediscovered that you love. I think just having that to enjoy and savor really makes a big difference in your life. And it's also something that you can look forward to and enjoy rather than, looking forward to a parcel being delivered or going out shopping. You can now be like, oh my gosh, I'm like reading this book or like reading this series or watching this TV show and it's great. And, kind of trying to limit yourself to like one episode or two episodes a day. Because again, when I was younger, I used to binge watch stuff because I just needed that payoff then. And it is great to like be so invested in that world and that story that you just want to binge watch it. I also was like, very lucky and privileged to have the time to binge watch things. I know a lot of people obviously don't have that time. But yeah, just having that longer form thing that you kind of have to be patient and wait for the payoff, so to speak, is just like a really cool thing, I think. And even though it might be, obvious, I think it's a thing that maybe not many of us think about. Yeah, I think it just like is a thing to put your mind somewhere else and give yourself a nice sort of quote reward without, over consuming. And yeah, it's just another thing to look forward to, like on bad mental health days where perhaps you're just not feeling it. Watching your favourite show or reading your favourite book can just really help making you feel like you have something, and just, being appreciative for those little things, quote little things, because I think if you love something and you're thankful for it, like it's a big thing. Whether it's like, everyone else thinks it's a big thing or whether everyone else thinks it's a little thing, to you, if it's a big thing, it's a big thing. You're allowed to appreciate, quote, the little things. You're allowed to appreciate what you already have, even if someone else might not think that it's a big thing. If you think it's a big thing, it's a big thing, and you're allowed to love it and appreciate it. I think these are just smaller things, little tips and tricks that you can do. The first one being just make a wish list. I still have a habit of changing my mind and changing what I like. So what I've found really useful and helpful is to make a wish list, especially for those bigger ticket items. Just having that wish list, and I normally wait a month or 2 months before I come back to it. I try not to think about it, and then if I go back to it and I still want that thing, then it's great. I think you will surprise yourself with how much you think you want, and then you come back to it a couple months later and actually you found you're not really fussed about having that thing anymore. I know I was very surprised when I started doing a wish list, and then I came back to it and I actually found that, oh, I don't really want this thing anymore. So that's a great way to stop over consuming, getting things that you don't really particularly want, you just think you want. I think just putting the fun back into life, and like I said about, reading a book, watching a TV show, listening to a podcast. I will put some things in the description that I'm reading and watching right now. So if you need any inspo or any recommendations, I've got you. Getting a hobby as well. And again, I feel like hobby, for me at least, was such a big daunting word at first, because I feel like a hobby used to suggest to me that it again needed to be something quite big, which it doesn't at all. I consider reading one of my hobbies. Some people don't consider it a hobby, but I do. So there's that. I have a colouring book now and I colour. When I don't journal every night, I will colour, and that's just a really peaceful thing that I like doing. I like painting and I like making things with clay. Am I any good at it? No. Do I still do it because I enjoy it? Yes. So when I say put the fun back into life, I mean put the fun back into life. You can do something, you can be totally bad at it, but if you enjoy it, keep doing it. If that's fun to you, do it. Just being patient with yourself and loving yourself and cultivating that relationship with yourself, and just being present, being grounded, asking yourself whether you really need that thing. Just being patient with yourself. Sometimes all we need to do is just take a couple of deep breaths and come back to ourselves. And yeah, I think you will be surprised how healing just a couple of deep breaths will be. And that is all I've got